When I started making videos about Chris-chan, I decided that I would refer to Chris by his preferred pronoun, which is she, and preferred name, which is Christine, because I wanted to be professional. I very quickly decided that this was not the correct choice for me. This video is an explanation for why I made that decision and the history of Chris's transition. For that reason, this video is made in the context of explaining to someone who would have a problem with me misgendering Chris. If you think it is obvious that Chris is a man and should be addressed as such for whatever reason, then this video isn't for you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't watch it, it just means that I will be speaking to people who don't already agree with me. In order to talk about this topic, I of course have to talk about the sensitive issue of the transgender movement in the United States. Unlike similar movements in the past, like the civil rights movement and the push for gay marriage equality, there isn't a clear divide between people on each side of the trans movement. The gay marriage movement was simple. Allow gay couples to marry and adopt. You were either for or against this law to be changed. The trans issue is not so simple. On the trans issue, there is a list of related questions that people can be in favor of or against in any combination. Like, should pronouns be based on sex or gender? Should people use hormones and surgery to change their body? Should children under 18, with the permission of their parents, be allowed to use hormones and surgery to change their body? Should children under the age of 18, even without the permission of their parents, be able to use hormones and surgery to change their body? Should the bathroom you used be based on your gender or your sex? Is misgendering or deadnaming someone harassment? It's possible to check yes or no on any combination of those issues. A vegan who is against tattoos might not like someone using animal hormones and surgery to change their appearance, but might be perfectly happy using their preferred pronouns and advocating for them to use whichever bathroom they prefer. For this reason, the debate is clouded and there's no one position that's considered more correct than the other. At the moment, the more of these that you accept, the more politically correct you are. But unlike the debate with gay marriage, it hasn't turned out that being opposed to just one of these makes you backward or hateful. It is of no concern to you where I fall when it comes to these issues or these questions. All that matters is that I want to tell you that my position on Chris-chan does not reflect my position on the transgender debate. I obviously do not call Chris by his preferred pronoun, nor his preferred name, but that's not a reflection of my attitude on misgendering transgender people. It's just a comment on how I view Chris-chan. But I will say this. Political commentator Ben Shapiro does not believe in calling people by their preferred pronoun because he thinks being transgender is a delusion. He says that you wouldn't call someone who thinks they're Napoleon, Napoleon, so he calls people by the pronoun of their birth sex.
But I'm not going to change what reality is in order to humor you. Like, if you call yourself Napoleon, I'm not going to call you Napoleon. You're not Napoleon. Like, this is not something I'm up for.
I strongly disagree with this idea, because I think that being transgender is not a delusion. I think that some people can be born with a male brain in a female body and vice versa. Thus, I would call someone like this by whichever pronoun they prefer. But here's the problem with Chris-chan. He is delusional. He thinks he is a god and that he has superpowers. So there are two options. Chris could be transgender and delusional, or he could just be delusional, and being trans is part of his delusion. Occam's razor, which is a scientific and philosophical principle that, when offered multiple conclusions, the one with the least assumptions is most likely to be correct, would say that it is more likely that Chris is merely delusional and believes he is trans, rather than actually being trans and delusional. There's also more to him being trans that would make people doubt his sincerity. He says he discovered he was trans when he had a vision of a past life where he was a woman who attended Woodstock. Thus, he thinks he's trans because he has a woman's soul. He's also stated that he doesn't believe he is masculine because he doesn't act like men in cartoons, which are, of course, exaggerations of masculinity. For those reasons, I don't know if Chris is actually transgender, but it doesn't really matter. There is another reason why I call Chris by the male pronoun, and that's because people within the trans community have asked me to. Many of them don't accept Chris as one of their own, and don't want him to represent them. Chris is usually hated by whatever group he is a part of, and the LGBT community is no different. For these reasons, I will continue to use the male pronoun when referring to Chris, and I will continue calling Chris by the name Chris. If I ever were to meet Chris or speak with him, I would probably use his preferred pronouns, not because I accept them, but because not doing so would be passive-aggressive. It's not my place to go up to Chris and tell him that the dimensional merge isn't real, or call him by the wrong name. I hope, if there is anyone out there who has a problem with me calling Chris by the wrong gender, you now at least understand why I do so. With that said, please don't get into arguments in the comments, because that would be a huge waste of time.